where you're at isn't because of the last 3 weeks. It's because of the last 30 plus years.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of remember that now. Welcome back to In Residence. I'm Keith.
And I'm Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Keith.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing swell. So last time we talked, the idea of not just collecting dots, but connecting dots came up again. And I think you had seen it in the calendar. And I was like, yeah, that's a good one. And we were kind of talking about, things that we like. And I think of it as like throughout the week, I capture a lot of things or I'm working at capturing my thoughts and then not simply just having them collected, but then going through and processing them and connecting them. And that happened a little bit this last week, where I saw a couple things that seemed connected to me. And so I thought maybe you could help me connect them.
Sure.
And I kind of shared with you I saw the Arthur C. Brooks. I saw a video with him. Mm-hmm. It was just a short where he was talking about failure journaling. And I was like, okay, what's this? And basically, he has his students keep a journal of their failures, and you write it down, what went wrong or what the failure was. And then a month later, you come back and you write, what did I learn from that experience? And then 6 months later, you come back to it and you say, what's something good that came out of that? He's like, because ultimately, there's always something that you can look back on and glean from that. The next thing that came up for me was an interview. It was like a short snippet of Greg McKeown with Tim Ferriss. And he was talking about this thing that he calls the law of inverse prioritization. And I think I mentioned it on here before because it kind of blew my mind. And so it came up again. So he's talking about how the most important things for us to do tend to not get done because of like perfectionism. We don't want to fail at it. So then failure came up, right? Talked about that for a little bit. And then he went on and they got on this little kick about doing the bare minimum and doing the bare maximum. And then you brought up to me, and this is where this all popped in my head of like, oh, this is all kind of connected.
Yeah.
Is that you read Bumpers.
I did.
By Nick Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've talked about like working out and stuff. Like, what's the bare minimum I'm going to do this morning, right?
Yeah.
And so then in Bumpers, he talks about what's my floor. It's like, what's the minimum?
Yeah.
And what's the maximum? Being careful to not overwork yourself because you had a bad day and didn't do your minimum. Don't overdo it and overcook yourself the next day. Like find that balance, right? That's one of my key takeaways from that book.
Yeah. That is something that really resonated with me because I think we have a tendency to, like you said, if you have a bad day or you don't do something, say you're scheduled to work out for a half hour, you're going to go get in your run, whatever, and you don't do it, the next day you're like, well, maybe I'll do the run and I'll do my weightlifting. I'll just do an hour. And it sounds great in theory, but I can't tell you how many times I've done that where it's kind of like I go all in and it's not sustainable. And so if it's not sustainable, then I drop it all together. And that doesn't really help me get towards what I'm trying to do either.
And that idea comes up in Bumpers. And then in that interview with Greg McKeown, he talked about that as well. Like that, setting how important it is to set that minimum and then actually stick to it. Be true to yourself. Like if you said, I'm only going to do 10 minutes, stop after 10 minutes. Yeah. And that made me think of like, oh, that's a great way to build the habit, right? And I've done that. And then it'll be like after 15 minutes, I'll be like, oh, look at me, I'm going. And I'm like, oh, I've done the thing where I didn't hold myself to what I said I was going to do. And it kind of backfired because then where am I 3 weeks later? Not doing it.
Right.
Not being consistent.
A good example, before we came in here to record, my shoulders and my neck have just been really sore and stiff. My hips too have been really, especially my right one's just been really tight. And I know what I'm supposed to do. I have the exercises. I know.
You have the foam roller.
I have the foam roller. I know we got the yoga block, right? to help with some things. And I spend maybe 10 minutes doing the things that my physical therapist has taught me, different things that your trainer has taught you.
You literally said laying there, like on the foam roller, you're like, I need to do this every day. And I'm like, yeah, we do.
Yep.
I'm like, not just you, but me too.
And it took, 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And I feel so much more loose and relaxed. Imagine if I did it every day. Anyway, so the bare minimum.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the key is finding something that you can be consistent with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, maybe, I don't know if there's something else to explore there with, we know we're supposed to do that. I think of it as like prehab, these daily things that I need to do just to feel all right, let alone if I was going to go out and do some actual physical activity, like play tennis or weightlifting and stuff. Like I warm up every time I do that stuff.
Right.
But like day to day, it's good to stretch. And I've got kind of a routine that I know I ought to do. I mean, we're back here again, kind of talking about like, how do we make ourselves do these things that we say we want to do? And it comes down to planning, I guess. And like,
well, in bumpers, I mean, I think saying like, what is it you're just simply going to do?
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel or if you're excited about it or not, what is that floor that you're just going to do?
Yeah. Oh, and maybe they bring it up in there because I haven't read that in a while, but I think in the interview with Greg McKeown, I guess it speaks to that consistency again of like, okay, like let's not say I'm going to run every day for an hour if you can't do that every day for the rest of your life. I feel like that was probably something like that in bumpers where it's like, let's not prescribe ourselves something that is a lifestyle thing that we can't do for the rest of our life.
Well, and he had a good example of if you say you're going to work out an hour every day and that's how you're going to stay in shape, and then you break your leg and you have more difficulty doing it, it's not necessarily sustainable.
Right. The thing that got you there and then you can't do it, then what's going to happen then? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Okay. The other thing in bumpers that I thought is something that you and I talk about quite a bit. As you're moving forward, everything that you've done up until this point informs your current state.
Ooh, yeah.
And he used health as an example quite a bit. I think you could use your career. I think you could use relationships, whatever you wanted to do. But all the decisions you've made into your life up until this point influence your health statistics, influence your weight, your, all these things. I'm like,
oh, like
wow,
the trend, like focusing more on more data points versus, well, what I've been doing for the last 3 weeks isn't giving me what I want. It's like, well, where you're at isn't because of the last 3 weeks. It's because of the last 30 plus years.
Exactly.
Yeah. I kind of remember that now.
Yep. And the same thing he was talking with businesses is that oftentimes people are setting a goal that is, did he call it incremental or more immediate, like a revenue goal of what do you want your life to be like? I think was the question. And often people will say, well, I want to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the question he asked. The question he asked is, what do you want your life to be like?
Yeah. And
then develop your practices and your habits and your daily activity around what you want your life to be.
I think that brings up a couple things that you've helped me remember with goal setting. What is your goal? Let's think about what is that you're aiming at.
Yeah.
And then let's work backwards. That's what that sounds like.
Yeah.
And then that incremental, the reason that we stop, Arthur C. Brooks said this in one of the videos, if not the one about the failure journaling. We stop when progress stops. Yeah. I have to remind myself that things take time. They take effort. It's over time. And I guess that feeds into the consistency and setting yourself up to be able to do the things so that it all culminates in reaching the goal. versus like burning really fast and bright and burn out, right? Yeah, it's a good to, is it zoom out or like reassess what your goals are and then see if the actions I'm taking are helping me get closer over time.
Exactly. Because he mentioned that if you are clear about where you want to go and what you want your life to be, you will be in a better position to make sure that the decisions you're making align with that. So his example was he wants to be able to sleep in with his husky dogs every day. That's something that he wants in life. And so he said, anything that comes his way then, if there is something that is going to make him not be able to do that, it's going to be a hell no.
So talking about goals and what we want to achieve, let's say, the thing I liked about bumpers, right? Like, and if people haven't figured it out or haven't heard of it, I mean, he equates it to like the bumpers that you put up when you're bowling. And I was thinking of it as like, how do you mitigate the risk while you still go for those things that you want to go for? Like you're trying to get a strike, and so you can put some muscle into it, but you have these guardrails in place, so you don't have to worry about like wrecking something, right? You don't have to worry about the failure because it's going to bang around and get down there, and you might get one pin, even though you're aiming for 10, right?
Right.
So I'm not super high risk. And as I've said before, I want to be more ambitious. I want to lean into taking a little more of the opportunities that are afoot and seeing what just comes out of it.
Sure.
So when I'm reflecting upon my goals, it would probably be really good for me to make a note in my journal to think about like what are the things that I can put in place so that I kind of have like a clear runway to go after them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense because without bumpers, you could find yourself in the gutter. What?
Yeah.
I think it's a powerful analogy.
Yeah, because you don't need to do this high risk, high reward lifestyle.
Right.
Right? Like we can be measured and still lean into some uncertainty, but like what we've done with your move
Right.
in your career.
Yeah.
And literally move and having an apartment. It's a risk, but we have things in place.
Yeah.
We have things that we can bump up against, and we're going to still keep moving forward.
I mean, one maybe good example, I made the commitment. One of my bumpers for this is that I will see you all on most weekends. And so whether that's I come home or you come to Green Bay with the kids, we've committed that is one of our bumpers. So if an opportunity came up for me to do something that went against one of those, we'd have a longer conversation. And for the most part, unless it helped in another way, it'd probably be a no.
Yeah, that's a really good example. I don't know if we put very many other bumpers in place because of that. I'm trying to think. I mean, nothing seems super difficult, or like I have to text you or call you up and say like, hey, this isn't going well, and we said this or we said that. So that is like kind of the one main one where it's like, hey, let's make sure that I guess the bigger, broader thing is like we have to be committed to staying in communication and staying in touch. And whether it's a text, a phone call, or a video call, we're going to make that happen.
Exactly. I think another bumper, I can think of two more that we put in place. One was that I was committed to using more vacation than I typically do. I'm often carrying days and days over year to year. And that's hard to do in your first year when you're somewhere. I've been trying to say, this is really important that I take vacation days to make time for things that matter to our family. So whether that's a trip, whether that's being home for somebody's birthday, something like that. And the other one is that we talked about, I often want to host get-togethers and parties and holidays and things like that, we talked about, not that we wouldn't do that, but we would make sure it fit better, and I wouldn't raise my hand for every single thing.
Right, yeah.
Because I tend to want to do them all because I like party planning, but...
Yeah, I mean, keeping in mind that we're prioritizing time for us and the kids helps guide our decision making much more than it used to. We used to be a little more like, oh yeah, we'll do that too. Oh yeah, we'll drive over there too, and we'll do this also. And it's been working, and it's nice.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we've actually said no to that many things.
I don't think so.
But it's given us the ability to say, well, that sounds great, but we're going to do this. Can we maybe do that next weekend? Or, it's nice to have, it's almost like, I guess, set boundaries in a way, like is another way, but, and not so much for other people, but in my own head of knowing this is how it is. And therefore I know how to proceed moving forward.
Right.
Like, it's nice for me to have that clarity, and be on the same page. And, again, it's communication. Like, it's in everything we talk about. Obviously, a big part of a partnership or any project that includes more than one person is communication.
Right. We've had a busy last couple weeks, and after yesterday, today I know child 1 said, I really just want to be home, because he's had tennis and we've been over at people's houses. And
when did he say that to you?
Last night on the ride home.
Okay.
When did he tell you?
He didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
So I asked him this morning if he wanted to go play tennis sometime, and he's like, maybe. And then now he's been kind of chill and
hunkered
laid
down
back and hunkered in his room, and I haven't, because I
Minecraft.
I could kind of tell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so maybe that's something that we got to make sure we touch base on, is if one of them says something to us like that, you tell me.
I just need to chill.
Yeah. I'm pretty cognizant of allowing them to chill, so that it probably didn't feel necessary to tell me, because they're probably Dad wants to be chill too, probably.
Right.
And I did.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I think they probably realize that between you or I, you're the one that more likely is going to be like, this is fine, let's just stay home. Where I'm the plan maker sometimes.
Once I saw the forecast that it was going to be in the upper 70s, that definitely helped solidify the fact that I'm like, well, maybe I'll lay low today.
And just stay.
I think I avoided sunburn the last couple days. Let's keep that going. Whereas I can't quite say the same for you.
No, but I will say it was nice. I even said to you that I spent the day, pretty much the whole day outside. I ran to Menards, I got mulch, I weeded all our flower beds in the front of the yard. I mowed the lawn. I killed a mouse. Yeah, we got our summer stuff out for our front kind of, what is that? It's not a patio.
It's a porch.
A little porch. And you helped me finish up with the mulch because I was gassed.
Yeah, it's warm out there.
It's warm. I'm hot. I think I'm sunburned. Am I sunburned? Can you tell from there?
Yes.
Am I?
You are, you're a little red.
A little red. Shoot. I put on sunscreen twice, but
that 30 is not going to cut it.
No.
I saw that and I'm like, uh-oh.
My goal was to only be out there 2 hours, but then, I know myself better when it comes to landscaping.
So you're saying you didn't set a minimum?
I did not set a minimum.
Or a maximum, I guess.
Well, I did set a minimum. My minimum was I'm going to get out there for a couple hours. Because,
You didn't set a cutoff, though.
Weeding and mulching only takes 2 hours in my head, but it took me the better part of the day. But
you're in before the sun's down.
That's true. Sometimes that hasn't been the case. So
no.
But I will say it felt really good to be home, lay low, even if my laying low was doing a lot of stuff outside and kind of running around for that. It did feel good to just work on a project and get the flower bed kind of ready. So when the flowers start popping, it's going to be great.
My version of that today was laundry.
Yep.
And trying to fix / mend child one's socks.
Oh.
And it's going well.
What's it called again?
Darning.
Darning.
Yeah, I love it. I love that word.
All right.
One of my favorite words I learned in the last year.
That's great.
Yeah. I need to do more sewing. It's very meditative.
That's good.
I really like
Sewing
it.
is fun.
Yeah.
I have a felt kit that maybe you would like because it's sewing together little things and stuffing them.
Do you have any of the, not yarn, but like, is it tapestry floss or what do you call that? Or
embroidery floss?
Embroidery floss. Yeah. I'll have to get into like your stash of things to see like what might work better for some of his socks.
Yep.
Because he's blowing through them for tennis.
Yeah, I have yarn. I have embroidery floss. I have thread. I got lots of things.
Okay.
Lots of things.
Let's transition.
Okay. Well, can we go back to the failure journals or journaling?
Yeah.
And I feel like we might have talked about this or the concept a while ago, but I really like the idea. My only concern with it is how could you set up the reminder or the structure to go back after, was it 1 month and 6 months?
Well, I think it would be easy if it was simply in a notebook that you just were like, okay, this is the notebook where I keep track of this stuff. And then if it's dated, you just see like, okay, at a certain point, it would just probably become a daily or weekly thing to check on, depending on how active you are with trying things.
Yeah.
Because I think it could get a little annoying or complicated if you're like, okay, now I'm going to schedule a month out from now. Remember to like putting like in my calendar, remember to think about this failure. Like it feels a little not great, but maybe something more like a kind of a little more private failure journal where how the writing it down is a really helpful processing tool.
It is.
That, actually writing it down. I mean, for me, I like to write because I don't write as much as I want to, but yeah, it's definitely something I want to incorporate. And I think maybe I'll get use one of my I think 5x7 little kind of soft.
Like a field note.
Like a field notes. Like they're just a little bigger than like the pocket ones.
Yeah.
And just kind of keep it with my stack of journals. And it just seems like a great reflection tool.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, just reflection itself is something I feel like I need to do more. I think it's very similar to connecting the dots. Well, part of that is you have to reflect on what have you collected,
right.
And so in the weekly planning session I do with the group Art of Pace, one of the sections is capture and process. It's just like, hey, make sure you have a notebook with you. And what have you captured throughout the week? Now's a great time to look back and make sure you're processing that and thinking of it. And what are you bringing forward? And what can you let go of? What can you discard? And for me, it's like the last time we talked when it was about what we were talking about what we consume for fun and those simple things that light us up. Well, a lot of the other stuff I consume is Arthur Brooks books and Tim Ferriss podcasts where I'm learning things and I want to hold on to these ideas of a failure journal. So I'm talking about now because I wrote it down and I'm like, oh, talk to Laura about this, and talking with you is another way of processing it. And now it's like, well, if I can incorporate this into my life, what else is good going to come out of this? And failure doesn't feel good. But if we can switch that into being, it's part of the process and some things are going to come out of it. And guess what? Some things might be good, even if right away it didn't feel great. So anyway, I get a little excited.
Do you ever think, because you said that failure is hard sometimes, do you ever feel that resistance to even admit that you experience a failure? or to name it that.
Yeah, I don't know if I walk around doing it even now, but one of our earlier episodes, I talk about working in the cabinet shop and having to tell the boss that I screwed up. Like I failed big time. Like I did this wrong and it's going to cost you money, not only in materials, but now I have to work and fix it, which you're paying me to do. As a younger person, I maybe would have tried to hide it away, right? You know, if a kid breaks something, all of a sudden you're like, what is that over in the corner? I remember finding like broken things and it's like, what? That wasn't there. It didn't fall off of anything and land there. Kids accidentally broke something and thought they were going to get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of sweep it under the rug. So that point, I was, a grown person. It's like, well, this is going to be hard, but I have to just own up to it. And that's what it is most of the time, It's harder when you're young, Parents tend to be a little more stressed out. Kids don't tend to pay as much attention to things, So, that one sticks with me because I remember it just stood out to me of like, oh, that felt really bad. But then it wasn't like I had a good reaction from them and I still felt bad.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like my face wasn't rubbed in it or anything. And I wasn't meant to feel bad for days or anything. And so it was kind of freeing.
Yeah.
So if I think of that and then what it's like to now look for when I fail at something, I think having kids that try things and they don't work out has really helped me actually.
Yeah.
Like whether their video isn't recording right when they were making videos together when they were a little younger.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it's okay, helping them work through the feelings that come with failure has helped me myself work through feelings that I have when things don't go quite right.
Yeah.
And I still got work to do. you out of anybody probably knows that.
But we all do.
Yeah. How about you? You have any?
Yeah. I liked when you brought up that sometimes things that are broken are just randomly kind of stashed away and kind of hoping no one will notice. Just within the last year, we stumbled upon, so we have this really cool, I thought it was really cool, comforter that had Darth Vader sewn into it. It was like from the Pottery Barn. I got it at a garage sale. I got a deal, and I really love getting deals. It would have been
really expensive, like new in the store, right?
It would have been really expensive in the store, but I got a really good deal on it. I think I paid $20 for it. It was amazing. Anyway, so it was just downstairs on kind of our family room downstairs, and I think you found it. It had a huge bleach stain on it.
Well, it was a little white spot. I moved the pillow off of it.
Right.
And it was little. And I'm like, what is that? And so I pulled it up and the other side was huge.
It's huge.
Like bigger than like a large pizza.
Yeah.
Big.
Right. And
I was like, what happened?
So we knew something like that couldn't just happen.
Yeah.
But neither child 1 or child 2 were fessing up to anything. No. And it took a long time, and I remember you were like, I'm going to get to the bottom of what happened.
I'm not mad.
And you kept saying, I'm not mad. I just think we need to talk about it because I need to know what happened.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure in your head you're thinking, whoever decided to use bleach on this could use bleach on something else, and it's going to happen again on the carpet, on the couch, on something.
Exactly.
And so we need to know so we can be a partner in this learning.
Yeah. So once I finally figured it out, like I knew it was bleach after about 2 minutes of
I
thinking.
looked at it, I'm like, that's got to be bleach, but who would put bleach on that and why?
They weren't owning up to it.
They were not.
And I kept leaning on child 1. And then I even started blaming him kind of playfully. I'm actually pretty impressed that he did not give up his little brother.
Yeah.
Who is the one that we now know ultimately accidentally did it.
Yeah, because it's an accident, right? It's a failure.
He was trying to clean up.
All failures are on purpose.
He was actually trying to clean up a mess.
Good thing.
He just overdid it by using something that he just, I'm like, after all is said and done, I'm like, all you need is a little soap and water and a rag and then one to dry it.
Yeah.
It's just a learning experience, and that's the whole thing. It can feel really bad and intense in the moment,
Yeah.
but then like Brooks says, give it some space and time, come back, reflect. Give it a little more time and space, and guess what? It'll probably almost be the opposite of a failure, and you can see what you've gained from it.
Yeah.
It's a powerful practice that I want to implement, and I don't know if I ever will, because I'm so good that I might never fail again.
You're funny.
I'm kidding.
I do like your idea of having a journal that is just for that, because as I'm thinking through it, I bet you could put your failure, and even if you wanted to put what is 1 month, what is 3, 6 months, whatever point in time you want to pick. But then as you go through it, you'll be able to catalog and have 2 kind of points, the ones where the new entries are happening and the ones that are up for additional review.
Yeah. The other thing I like about it too is that it might be a failure journal, but I think it's a low-key gratitude journal also.
Oh.
I think that's the trend that I will start to see, because even like with getting bleach on a blanket and the pain that comes out of that failure, I can look at that and be like, this is an opportunity for you to learn. Even if something goes wrong, you're not going to be yelled at or sent to your room. Let's just work through it. And accidents happen.
Yeah.
I hope that's the only takeaway is like, hey, yep, guess what? Accident happened. You messed up.
Right.
It's not that big of a deal. It's a minor inconvenience.
Have I talked on here about the time I put the snake repellent on the yard?
I think so.
Okay.
That was
definitely...
That's a failure.
That was a failure.
That stuff smelled so bad.
That smelled so bad. It was like sulfur and mustiness.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Long story short, snake around the house, right?
Snake repellent around the house, like granules.
Because you saw a snake, beds. Right?
Because there's a snake that liked to live underneath our air conditioner.
Right.
And I just had enough. I was done.
So you went around the whole house and the air conditioner.
Oh, I put a lot by the air conditioner.
Right. Which, unfortunately for us, feeds into the house in the central air system.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I just had this weird smell. And I was like, I'm either having a stroke or something's on fire.
Yeah.
And I came out and I'm like, what are you doing? And you're like shaking it and you're like, I'm done. I'm like, no, what did you do?
I started like yeah.
I'm pretty sure we talked about it, but yeah, it was, you felt so bad.
I felt so, well, and it happened just whatever, it just must be my nerves, but I always decide to do something that's a little bit more the day before a new job.
It's overkill.
Yeah. The day before, like before a new job, before I start school, before something.
Yeah.
I always bite off more than I can chew. I mean, I always say I'm doing kind of a Grandma Doris, and that it never looked like she was biting off more than she could chew, but she was also always doing something more than she probably had to do before something happened. Right. So, I remember, and I was doing it in the evening too before.
Yeah. It was like dusk.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I can't believe.
And so then you had to hose it all down.
Yep, had to hose it down, try and get it away from the air conditioner.
Do we have to get the kids out of the house? I'm like, they're going to get nauseous.
Yeah, I think we brought them to my parents or your parents.
Someone's parents. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was a thing.
So what did you learn from that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think one thing that I've learned, I think in general, when I'm starting something new and big, sometimes it's simply enough to be prepared and not have to do things that don't have to be done right now. The last couple transitions, I've said, okay, you can do that next weekend. That's not going to be something you're doing tonight, because you need to be ready and you need to be prepared and you need your rest. I also learned that paying attention to how things connect is important, because putting down the snake deterrent, because they don't like the smell of it, apparently. I don't know if it works or not, because we had to wash it all pretty much
Well,
away.
in that spot, anyway.
Yeah. Knowing that I could put it around, and I just paying attention a little more of, as I'm doing this one thing, it could impact something greater than I intend. I think that is an important lesson as well, of things are connected and can have a bigger impact than you intend if you don't take a beat and try and focus and think through what those alternative routes might be.
Yeah. That brings up like systems thinking and
exactly.
This is strategy that we talked about,
Yep.
Seth's book, where he talks about seeing the systems, and it's like, well, you can see a system better when you can see how things are connected. And when you can see how things are connected, you can have a more elegant approach to changing it.
Yep.
When you can approach the work that needs to be done in a more elegant way, then you have more time to respond instead of react.
Yep, exactly.
That's what you've gotten better at, is like, okay, I'm going to respond to this in due time versus, oh my gosh, there's a snake. I got to burn the house down. We can't live here anymore. Like,
well,
and I need that too. Like, how am I going to respond is dependent upon how have I spent my days. How am I setting myself up to react, and seeing the way that I act and how that's connected to what's going to come next, right? Like you were saying, and how that fits into the bigger system. For me, that's a muscle that I want to exercise.
Yeah.
That brain muscle of seeing things a little more clearly, or like seeing the Matrix.
Oh gosh. I don't know if I talked a lot about the Greg McKeown piece, Inverse Prioritization. The idea that we give the least amount of attention to our highest priorities makes sense to me.
Okay.
Because if we're giving our attention to the highest priorities, those are the things that are more complicated, that matter most to us. So we want to make sure they're done well.
Mm-hmm.
And we have more to lose if we don't do them well.
Yeah. High stakes, right?
Yeah, they feel more high stakes.
So it makes sense that you would be more hesitant. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. From a personal standpoint, that makes a lot of sense to me.
It resonated with me when I heard it.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's so much easier to simply doom scroll, to even like go out and weed and do a garden bed.
That's important. That's an important recovery time for you.
It's important recovery, but
so that's like self-care.
Right.
Because it's not like you do that every evening.
No.
So I just want to make sure you're not being too hard on yourself.
Doom scrolling. We'll go with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe it's not even doom scrolling.
Or
it's
sending
just
each other
media.
funny videos from social media,
yeah,
right?
we like to do that. Sending some, are they called memes when they're like that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. I think when it comes to my work life, I resonate less with this, because I do feel like I am constantly shifting my priorities around to make sure that the highest priorities are the ones that I'm focusing my time on.
At work. Yeah.
Yep. So this is a work situation. However, there's a tension between what I see as the highest priority and what other people think my priority ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
And those don't always align. Sometimes they do, but they don't always align. So that is something to be aware of, because there's a lot of books out there and articles and different things that talk about how, if you're not being productive at work, are you getting stuck in the endless email responding? Or are you getting stuck socializing? Or are you doing the things you want to do, but maybe don't need to do because you prefer to do them? I feel like I've spent a lot of time adjusting and fine-tuning my approach to prioritization, but I could see how this may resonate with people in a work context, even though it doesn't resonate as much with me personally. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally agree that it's different. If I'm being paid at work, so much easier for me to stay on task, go above and beyond, over deliver, under promise, rock it out of the park. And then when it comes to these personal things, I think it's because it's literally because it's personal and there's more emotion tied to the outcome. Whereas at work, it's simply work. I'm paid to be here. There is a differentiation. I've noticed it. I notice a difference of how I show up when I'm getting a paycheck versus how I'm showing up being a freelancer.
Yeah.
I think I said to myself today, dude, start making yourself checklists like you used to do when you were getting paid to do work.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't tell you to do that. You did it because you knew it would help you get the work done. And that's the way you operate. So operate that way for yourself. Like, it's just as important.
Yeah, you are your boss.
Yeah. Yeah, no one else is going to tell me, and that's why it's so much easier to be like, oh, I'm going to go mess around with this right now. Like, because no one's telling me I can't.
Yeah.
I should be saying something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I appreciate you bringing the topic and bringing all the different lenses around it. It's a good opportunity to think about various aspects of moving projects forward and building some of those skill sets to make sure they're moving forward by attending to some of the different things, like being mindful of what are your bumpers? What is it that you want in life? What can you learn from the times that maybe things don't go so well? And then also always keeping in check that perfectionism when it comes to prioritizing your goals.
That always seems to creep in.
It sure does.
These really seem to resonate, and especially at this time, this season is we're in spring and it's growing season. Things you're out in the garden, and so that emphasis on returning to growth and it's just a time where I'm needing to lean into that, and thinking of these types of ideas helps me look forward towards where I want to go, and where do I want to be when fall comes?
Yeah.
And what am I going to do over the next weeks and months to get there? And so these ideas and practices can help me, stay on course and help me course correct as I go. Because that's how you get where you want to go, is, taking the time, reflecting. Am I headed the way I want to go, or do I need to make a little adjustment? So
yeah,
I'm going to play with the failure journal for sure. I'm going to play with that. And you said you got the audio version of Bumpers, so I'll cue that up. And
it's a really short listen.
Yeah,
I think it's like an hour.
Oh, I bet, because I read it in one day.
Yeah.
So check it out. It's out there.
I meant to read it, but
but you can listen to it while you're doing
gardening.
chores or gardening. Yeah,
I'm gonna listen while I garden.
Yeah.
And I think this will be great.
All right, let's wrap it up. Do you have any recommendations or anything to share?
Yes. So I just finished a really good book called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Makes a heck of a lot of sense that although money oftentimes we think is all about who has the best formula and the best analysis, there is a very large portion of psychology involved in how we navigate financial decisions and savings and retirement and things like that. So I would highly recommend that. I liked it.
Okay. I think I listened to that while I was working on the deck.
Okay.
So I'll have to revisit that, or maybe you and I can have a conversation about it sometime.
I would like that.
Yeah.
How about you? Anything that you've been reading or shows that you'd recommend?
Well, we just finished the season of Severance.
We did.
That was intense and good. So check out Severance.
Sorry, the ending, I just, I won't say a darn thing because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm still thinking about it. I think I woke up the next day and I was like, Keith, I don't know. I can't believe what did that happen? Wait, what? So
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good to finally finish that. And then yeah, haven't had a whole lot of time to read
yeah,
lately because I've been at tennis matches and enjoying that a
sure.
lot. So
It's been fun.
yeah. All right, let's get out of here.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So we talked about bumpers and about what is the floor and what bumpers are.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Arthur Brooks and failure journals, writing down what happened, the failure, 2 lines underneath, and then 1 month later, what did you learn? 6 months later, what is the good that came of it? You also talked about the idea from Arthur Brooks again that when progress stops,
That's when we
stop
we give up. Yeah.
working on things.
Yeah.
And then the last piece was around Greg McKeown with the episode with Tim Ferriss,
Mm-hmm.
talking about how our highest priorities we tend to give the least amount of attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that is because of the perfectionism, and we're afraid of not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And the emphasis again of what's the minimum and the maximum.
That okay?
Yeah.
Okay, wrap up?
I think so.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.